morning, good afternoon, wherever you're at. We're on another episode from the gutter to greatness. And always, as always, we have some greatness. We have a brother who defies gravity. This brother can levitate. He floats on air. He is Ivan the Great. So not Ivan the Terrible, y'all. Ivan the Great. He is our new historical figure that we're going to talk about and talk to today about his gutter to greatness. He's going to tell his story, tell what he does, how he does it, and how he helps others move from their gutter to greatness and how they can defy gravity as well. And so without further ado, I definitely want to introduce Ivan. And Ivan Thomas will tell us a little bit more about himself. So Ivan, we always start with tell us what you do currently and why should anybody care? Why should it matter to the audience who is listening from the gutter to greatness?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, Dr. Miller, thanks for having me on. My name is Ivan Thomas. I go by the name of Mr. Defy Gravity, and I am an award-winning entrepreneur, celebrity publicist, author, and speaker. And I'm the president and CEO of a company called Intrigue Media Group, which is a PR agency and brand management company based in Atlanta. I'm also the founder of Defy Gravity International, which is a motivational and educational movement that's focused on helping people to identify their purpose, activate their gifts, and launch into their ultimate level of personal and professional greatness. And I also own a credit repair company. So really my whole life is really just focused on helping people to just, climb out of whatever circumstances they're in, to really identify their gifts, their talents, their purpose, and really to just become the best versions of themselves. And that's really what my focus is. And it has been for almost 2 decades. And, I'm just really passionate about my work.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Even before we dig into your story, you do quite a bit of different things. And so just try to understand the journey to becoming a celebrity publicist. What does that mean for people who are out there? What is it that you do? And so people understand what does that mean?
Yeah. So, we have so many talented people out there, from entrepreneurs, aspiring entertainers, speakers, authors, whatever it is. A lot of people have a lot of talent, but they don't really know how to share their gifts with the world. Right. So, you might be an expert at finances, or, you might be, a great entrepreneur. But of course, people knowing about you is important. That's how you attract your clientele. That's how you gain recognition. And that's ultimately how you build your brand. So the focus with my business is really just helping people to, get access to various platforms through the media, through strategic partnerships and relationships, through events, and really just positioning them so they can share their message and more people know who they are. So whenever you see, anybody, it could be, a Beyonce, it could be, whoever, whenever you see a celebrity, whenever you see a public figure or leader who's, on a CNN or who's on the radio, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time they have a publicist or a PR agency behind them pitching a story and sharing why something is newsworthy, an announcement or a new achievement, and just making sure that they can share it with the world. So, if an artist is dropping a new album, if a new movie's coming out, if an author's launching a new book, typically what a PR agency will do or a publicist will do is to position them on the media, to position them at different events as a speaker or a panelist or wherever, so that they can get the message out.
No doubt. So what took you on that track? So, when you were thinking about what you wanted to do in this world and how you wanted to affect and also, take care of and make a living for yourself and your family, what made you want to move towards that?
Yeah, well, originally it wasn't my goal. My goal was to be a marine biologist. I wanted to be like the Black Jacques Cousteau, diving into the ocean, looking at whales and dolphins and stuff like that, or going to the Serengeti and, capturing the photos of cheetahs and stuff. I used to watch National Geographic and Wild Discovery growing up, this show called Wild America. Like, I was really into nature, into animals. But, lots of times we get a little, just kind of influenced to do different things. So I actually kind of got taken off of that path when I was early, just because, my parents or my dad, why do you want to do that? You know what I'm saying? So I actually got into the media space simply because when I was growing up, my dad, he was a longtime journalist. So he wrote for like the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, the Jersey Star Ledger, the Boston Globe, the Chicago Tribune, and he was in that media space. So I got kind of introduced to that through him. And then actually, I attended Howard University in Washington, D.C. I was pursuing a degree in broadcast journalism. So like at that time, I had grown to liking the media space, and there was somebody named Ben Gordon who was on this show called, Ed Gordon, not Ben Gordon, the basketball player. But he had this show called BET Tonight. And, I kind of wanted to be like him. He's a smooth brother, very articulate and smart. And he would discuss different issues, on BET. It was like a news show. So I kind of wanted to go into that space. So I was in broadcast journalism, when I was at Howard. And then actually, while I was there, my dad ventured into entrepreneurship, and he started his own PR agency. Right. So while I was at Howard, I started working with him prior to graduating, a little bit interning. Then I went off and worked with some different companies. But then I ultimately returned back to working with him and supporting his PR company, doing media relations and working with different clients. And that's actually how I got my introduction into the field of PR, was through my dad.
Right. So who are some of the clients that you've worked with? Because I'm sure everybody likes that. They want to hear names, they want to hear people, places, things.
Right.
Who have you worked with?
So a lot of people, man. Shoot, I've worked with people from Bill Cartwright, former Chicago Bulls player and coach, to companies like Xerox, Ursula Burns, the first Black female Fortune 500 CEO. I've worked with Hampton University, Karen Parsons, who was Hillary on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, rapper Waka Flocka Flame, a lot of people. Melody Cherie, who's currently on the #1 TV show on the Oprah Winfrey Network called Love and Marriage Huntsville. Really, the list goes on, but colleges and universities, international leaders, celebrities, athletes, a lot of people.
Right.
The world, a lot of people. Yeah.
So I know there had to be a journey to get there. I heard you mention your dad worked in Rochester. That's my hometown. That's where my gutter started at. That's where you see in the background the projects there in Rochester. So what's your gutter to greatness story? Like, where did it all start? And what struggles, what things did you have to go through? Any stories, anything that people will understand and identify with, and they see that you just didn't automatically step into this success with these successful people, that there was some type of grind and process. What was that like?
Well, yeah, man. So my life is really, I've had a diverse experience, man. I've lived in a variety of different places. I was born in Washington, D.C., grew up in the Chicago area, but, we moved around a lot when I was younger because, like I mentioned, my dad was in the media. Right. So, I did live in Rochester for a very brief period of time. I just remember it was snowy and it was cold.
Right.
We moved around a lot. So, I lived in New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey, East Orange, New Jersey. My dad is actually from Brick City, Newark, New Jersey. My mom is from DC. So they actually met when I was at Howard University, and I was conceived at Howard University. So it's interesting how that story came about. So maybe I'll tell you that story a little later. But yeah, man, really, my biggest thing is just that I was a person who grew up and, experienced different things. So I've experienced the inner city, but I've also experienced, growing up in an affluent area where I'm one of the only Black faces around. You know what I'm saying? So really early on, I would honestly say that, there was a little bit of an identity thing that I was kind of going through, just trying to find my space and where I truly belonged in life, because I wasn't exactly like a lot of people. But, I really started to find myself once I recognized my own gifts and, my purpose. You know what I'm saying? When I was growing up, I think that lots of times I didn't really project my voice the way that I was supposed to project my voice. I was worried too much about what people may have thought about my thoughts or what I wanted to do. And, I dimmed my light. So it really wasn't until I got older, into college and then into really my early adulthood where I started to truly find myself and recognize, my own gifts, my talents, and really capture my voice. And that's just something that I had to cultivate over the years, to become the person that I am now. But Yeah, man. I grew up in a two-parent household. You know, my parents are divorced now, but I grew up in a two-parent household, the oldest of five. You know, times weren't always easy because we had to rise from, being in Newark, New Jersey, in the hood, to getting to this place called Lake Forest, Illinois, which was actually north of Chicago. So I got to experience a lot of the journey, with my parents really working to position us for a better life and things of that nature. And then, just different challenges happen from there, just as far as me figuring out who I was. So we can delve into that a little deeper. But
Yeah, absolutely. Like, who were you? Who'd you figure out that you were, and how'd you figure it out?
yeah, so honestly, man, it wasn't until about I was working. I was working a job, and I really just wasn't happy, man. I wasn't happy at all. I didn't really feel like I was walking in my purpose. I didn't feel like my gifts and my talents were being utilized properly. I knew that I was a person with great vision, and I felt that I was pigeonholed. So this was back in 2009, or excuse me, 2013. I'm getting ahead of myself. This was 2013, where I just really recognized that I needed a change. I was actually living in a small town in Central Florida called Palm Coast, right? And, it's like a beach town. A lot of retirees live there, but I moved down there to be closer to the beach, and my mom had lived down there at the time. So I was down there trying to really just, get myself rooted. And I just was feeling just lost. I was working, but I wasn't really getting anything out of life. So I said, something's got to change. I was frustrated. I was angry. I was feeling inadequate. And I'm like, you know what? I got to do something about it. So really, I just one day said, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. And I quit. I quit my job. Didn't have any real plan for what I was going to do outside of me starting my own business and starting my own PR agency. So Intrigue Media Group was actually birthed in 2014. And I started it just out of frustration and wanting more out of life, man, to be honest. Just really feeling like there was nothing else for me to do because, I wasn't making the money I wanted to make. I wasn't happy. I was just feeling like I was just wading water.
Right. And so what did you learn out of all that? So a lot of times we have to hit rock bottom to figure out, what our next move is, or be pushed to figure out who we really are. So what did you learn from all that? Like, what
I learned that if I didn't make a decision and, become the captain of my own life, that somebody else was going to tell my story. I wasn't going to have a legacy. I was just going to be somebody who woke up every day and worked for a cause that I didn't truly believe in, and that really didn't, give me any happiness or any joy. So I learned that I would just let my life completely go by if I didn't step up and do something about it. So at that point, I got heavy into motivation, man. I was watching every motivational video you could think about. I don't care if it was an athlete from, Kobe Bryant, listening to him talk, or Floyd Mayweather, watching The Rock, watching Grant Cardone, watching Eric Thomas, just watching all of these, the Les Browns, watching these people. And all the main thing that they kept talking about, man, is that you have to stop making excuses and you got to take, control over your life. And at this point, I'm going into my 30s, so it's like, you're going into adulthood. Nobody's going to take the blame for what you did or didn't do. Like, you got to make the decision right now that you're going to be great, that your life is actually going to mean something. So I delved into that motivation. I delved into all kinds of books. I started reading the Think and Grow Riches, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, Atomic Habits, any book I could get my hands on that was focused on self-development, focused on success, entrepreneurship, mindset. Those are the books that I really tapped into. And I really just took the onus on myself to completely rewire the way that I thought. And that's how I started to get on a trajectory towards really starting to live the life that I wanted to.
What do you think the largest barrier was for you in before you started to make that shift? What do you think it was that you were doing to contribute to that? Like, what was, what were you doing wrong, basically?
That's a good question.
Getting in your own way.
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I was a little victim, man. I was somebody. Why me? Why am I going through this? Why did this person do this to me? You know what I'm saying? And it was really me just not necessarily taking the accountability. I had more of a nonchalant type of attitude back in the day, where I just kind of let things go with the flow, and I just kind of rolled with life, and certain things that I needed to take action on, I didn't take action on. So I have to really blame myself for that. Excuse me. Yeah, I had to really blame myself for that.
Right. And then, so was there a person, a place, or a time that really made you shift? So I understand what you're saying, that it seems like there were, again, you kind of realized that and started looking for motivation, and you kind of were at the end of the rope and wanted to do something different. But was there a moment in time or experience that really made you say, okay, that's it. That's what my little 3-year-old says. She said the other day, she said, that's it. I'm gonna punch you in the eye now. And is that something that happened to you?
Yeah. So at this point, so I have 4 kids. My first kid is from a previous relationship, right? So at that time, I was raising my youngest son by myself, right? And I couldn't afford anything, and there was one time where I couldn't go home to Chicago for Christmas to see my family. And I'm there in in Florida by myself with my son, just trying to make things great for him. But, I was really just feeling just inadequate at that time. And I remember talking to my dad, and we got into a huge argument. And that was the time when I just recognized that, I've been letting people kind of dictate the direction and the trajectory of my life, even as a young adult. And I just recognized, like, hey, man, like, you're not going to take the blame. This person's not going to take the blame. Nobody's going to take the blame for where I am. So I got to just follow my own path. I got to make my own path, because at the end of the day, nobody's going to say you didn't accomplish this because of me. I knew at that moment, like, I'm so mad right now. I'm so angry. And the only person who can do anything about it is me, because nobody else is going to walk that walk for me. So my back was just against the wall, and I was just no money, nothing. And I'm just like, this isn't even the type of person that I am, or the type of life that I aspire to have. And I just had to do something, man.
Right. And so what did that first steps look like towards doing something? Yeah. And what did you do to start creating that change?
Yeah, so immediately after quitting my job, I immediately reached out to somebody to create some business cards for me. I came up with the name Intrigue Media Group, just like, I've always been good at creating names, man. And I'm just like, I want to do something that intrigues people, right? So I really decided to just launch my business right at that moment, as soon as I quit. Got a website done for like $300 that I actually had to create, and some business cards made. And from that point, I just started going out there in the neighborhood and really trying to get some clients, finding people who are entrepreneurs, walking to little city meetings. And it was a small town that I was in called Palm Coast. But, they had a little entrepreneur, center that I would go to meet different people and meet, authors and things of that nature. And I really just started to put myself out there really for the first time, because I think working with a company, you're kind of sheltered in a sense, because you're within a structure, and, they're bringing assignments to you. You just go and do your job. But at this point, I needed to be the go-getter. I needed to, attract the clients. I needed to promote myself. I needed to let people know that I existed, and I had to get out there and do whatever I needed to do.
Right. And instead of talking about it, you started to be about it.
Right.
But why do you think there's so many of our, especially our brothers, right? Our Black and brown men, and it's everybody that gets stuck at some point in time. Yeah. But we got so many people that look like us that are stuck in that, stay in the and waddle in the mess.
Right.
Why do you think that is? What's your take on that?
It's really a mindset, and it's a lack of confidence. I think most of us, in our community, we operate under the guise of having confidence. We might be physically tough, we might have aggression or something like that, but the mental toughness, the emotional intelligence is not always there. And, there were times when I was lacking that as well, which is why, I was delayed in as far as really getting into what I wanted to get into in my own life. So I think it's a confidence barrier, and it's a mindset barrier. And lots of times, we have a victim mentality, whether we want to believe it or not. And I know a lot of us come from different types of environments. Some have it a lot worse than others, but at the end of the day, it starts with the mindset and your perspective on the world and where you fit in it. And lots of us don't have a good perspective on that.
So as emotions, like emotional intelligence is real, EQ and IQ and all those Qs, right?
Right.
But think about what you just said. What were you taught as a Black man about having emotions? And what did you learn through your socialization process about having emotions?
Right. Well, I was taught like a lot of young men are taught, you don't really show your emotions, and showing your emotions is a weakness, right? So lots of things I held in and I didn't really have an outlet to share things or really to bounce my emotions off of. So you just kind of deal with it. So we go through life, oftentimes for years, some people for their entire lives never really feeling like they've contended with their emotions and what's inside. So lots of those things, I held in until I really grew up, and I went through that process that I explained to you, where I just took control of my own life. That was really the first time I really was able to do that introspection and figure out, like, who am I? Like, what's my reason for being here? What do I think? What do I believe? And why do I believe those things? Like, those are things that I never truly tapped into until I was a young adult. And I think that many young men don't. We're products of our environment in many cases, and we just accept kind of where we are. Some people are strong enough to say, hey, you know what? I want something different, or maybe they've been exposed to something that shows them that there's something outside of what they currently know. But most people just deal with the circumstances, and they feel like, hey, this is where I've been placed. This is what I got to deal with.
Holding it all in,
Yeah.
that's unhealthy for you. That's unhealthy.
Yeah.
And creates, it can create bad habits, can create sickness, can create anything, because you're holding this negative energy inside of you because you didn't have an outlet for those emotions. Now, I guess a little bit of a controversial is, did you have an outlet for your emotions, and was it a positive outlet? And did it turn into a vice? What was that vice basically? What were you doing that you weren't supposed to be doing, and it probably negatively affected your life?
Yeah, man. My vice was what a lot of young men's vices is, sex, women, for a
Me too.
period of time, pornography, those are things that, kind of were an outlet. When you didn't feel like you could express things or talk to people, you sometimes go into deleterious habits, and those were some of them. So I was never into drugs or anything like that, really. I never really got into crime and things of that nature. There were times where, as a young Black man, you felt you wanted to prove yourself. And I found myself in some situations I didn't need to be in, but I was never really in trouble with the law. But definitely, dealings with women is kind of, what my vice was.
Yeah, that was mine too.
Yeah.
That has always been a kryptonite for me, and I've had to learn how to deal with those emotions. It's funny you even mentioned porn, because recently, a few episodes ago, I had a great episode with this brother named Big Herc, right? And so Big Herc, great story. Him and I are getting ready to do a speaking circuit soon and tell the two tales. Where this brother, he actually was a ex-con. He spent 10 years in the pen because he robbed a bank. And so he robbed a bank, and he goes through and tells the whole story of how he robbed the bank and what he felt like, what it looked like when he knew they was about to get caught. And he said it was like a movie, right? But another thing that he alluded to is, before that, he was doing porn. And so this was before OnlyFans and all this. So if you Google Big Herc, you're gonna know this dude if you watch porn in the 90s. So if you watch porn in the 90s, or you seen any of it, because there was a rotation of probably 4 to 5 male actors that were in a lot of the scenes, and then the crew of the ladies, which I'm sure we all remember. We could spit off Cherokee and Beauty, and don't act like you don't know.
I know a couple of them, man. I'm trying to rid myself of that point. Jasmine Cashmere.
Lexi. All of those. But when you Google, Big Herc comes up because he was one of those dudes. So just hearing his, you're gonna go Google it later. I know.
Stay away from that.
But what's cool is he's really transitioned and turned his life around, and he's using that to now, how do I help and inspire others and explain my story and talk about it took me longer to get there. And that's kind of the parallels of what him and I are going to speak about. Is like I had my challenges as well, but I shifted a little sooner and I didn't have to go through certain things because of it. And he went through these things and got it later, but now he gets it, and our paths have kind of crossed because we're both trying to do the same thing now. And so that's the story we're trying to tell, and we're going to be getting it out across the country and speaking on this. So, you know, just interesting. When you said porn, it made me think of Big Hurt, because, you know, definitely just Google just to see who he is. His images will come up. It'll be interesting.
I actually worked with a woman named well, I'm not gonna tell her name, but anyway, she people can look her up, but she was a ex-porn star, and she actually wrote a book. She became a minister, and her book was called From Porn to the Pulpit. But she came up during that era, and she completely changed her life around as well. But you know, and it seems like, you know, I've heard of several people doing that, and they end up going into ministry and stuff after that.
Now, if you ask me, you know, and this is, I'm just thinking about it, it's kind of humorous now, but if you ask me when I was young, at first I wanted to play in the NFL. That didn't really happen. I thought about it at a time when I was younger. I thought about maybe FBI agent or an officer. And what I thought to myself is I was too connected to the streets, and I didn't really, even when I moved away from the streets, I was too connected, and I didn't want to be the person having to arrest or negotiate with people that you know, I grew up, that I dealt with or grew up with. So I said, you know, that's not my path. There were times where I had these little glimpses in my head. I said, I wish I could be a porn star, where I never did that officially, or I never moved out to LA or anything like that. But there was those times in my head, because I believe what we think is how we act, and what we act is what we attract. So if you're watching it, you're thinking about it, you know, there was like, hey, could I do this? You know, could I do this, or should I do this? And so there was always thoughts of, you know, that I could do that, even though I don't think that would have been God's path for my life. I don't think that really what he wanted for me. Transparently say that, you know, I guess I had a little envy and thought it was cool, because that's what you know, you kind of aspire to be, is what you're watching, what you think about, what you're looking at, you know. So definitely some shifts in my mindset, some shifts, and to think about doing some things differently. You know, just thinking about shifts and doing things differently, you know, I think about you know, trending topics, right? And you know, and you being a celebrity publicist and down there in Atlanta, you definitely come across, I know you come across some artists and some musicians and just all kinds of entertainers. What's your take? And, you know, obviously you see my take, and I'll tell you more in a second, where I said, you know, Kendrick versus Drake is corny. That's my take, and I'll explain why in a minute. But, you know, Kendrick versus Drake, what's your take on this whole beef? Because recently, you know, they've had this beef going on. They both put out numerous songs, and numerous diss tracks back and forth. But Kendrick is outperforming his, and, you know, he's got a lot of support going for it. And I believe he was on stage in LA, and he spit a couple new lines that made headlines, talking about giving Tupac his ring back, because Drake bought a ring from Tupac or whatever. I don't know why that's a line, why that's made headlines, or why that's so interesting. But it did. It made these headlines, and there was a big resurgence of it. And also there were so many celebrities that were on stage with Kendrick supporting, you know, almost like the downfall of Drake. What's your take on all this?
I mean, my take on it, initially, I could see how it was very good for hip hop, because you had two titans who were going at it, right? But I think it took a dark turn, and it's really, I haven't really been paying much attention to it as of late. I've been seeing it on social media, you know, about Kendrick performing and all of this stuff. But I would say, like, after the first couple of weeks, I haven't really been following it that much, because I kind of share the same sentiment as you. Like, I think at a certain point it becomes corny, and I really see that there's not really anybody else. There's no art form, no other craft, where it's just constantly black men just tearing each other down on a consistent basis. And it seems like it's this particular beef seems like it's started to cross beyond just I mean, really in beef, they say like there's really no rules, but I just feel like there's something about this one that's just kind of disturbing in a sense, right? And I feel like not only is it jeopardizing legacies in a dangerous way, but also I just feel like it's just contributing to this narrative that I'm seeing with our Black men, where anyone who's at a certain position, any type of success, you know, it's like really we're just crumbling right now. And I'm just wondering who's out there who's really just gonna stand up and actually protect some of our icons, because we'll destroy each other if we just keep going down this cycle. And that's really what I kind of see. And I know some people, you know, they have their questions about Drake for certain reasons, but I feel like there's different layers that come out in a beef like this. You know, we're debating blackness, we're talking about, you know, kids, we're talking about all different types of things that kind of cross over into this lane that I feel has historically kind of brought Black people and particularly Black men down, if you get what I'm saying.
No, absolutely. I'm with the historical context. So I have a similar perspective, but I'll agree with you on, I think, every part that you said, where I think from a historical context, this is what they want us to do. They want two of large figures here to go at each other until they fall or until somebody falls. And it's for people's entertainment to create a divide. And so, you know, I'm never really supportive of that from that perspective. So from a historical perspective, I don't necessarily agree with it. But I also understood it and got down with it initially a little bit from a hip hop perspective. So hip hop was built on battle rap, was built on, you know, lyricism, right? And so the reason why I believe this is corny, because lyrically, both of their disses were corny as hell. They're not like us and or whatever. Entertaining maybe, but lyrically sharp. Neither one of them were good. Kendrick's throwing his voice and sounds like he's on Sesame Street.
I thought I was the only person who had a problem with that. I'm like, I can't stand it.
And Drake just came weak with all of them. And if you think of historically, if you're going to battle, it's about lyricism. It's not necessarily about knowing each other's life intimately and trying to talk about somebody's kids. And yes, all fair is in love and war. But even the way you put that together, it should be so articulate that it should be sharp like a sword. And so lyrically, if you look at the KRS-Ones, you look at the LL Cool J's, you look at Big Daddy Kane's, you look at Jay-Z and Nas, you know, like if you look at Nas, and he put together Ether, which was that was a song that people wanted to listen to, not just a bunch of lyrics, right? It was, if you look at Jay-Z, there was a song that people want to listen to plus lyrics. And so when I look at Kendrick, people are hyped up because he's saying crazy things and calling them out, and people like controversy. But can you really say that his lyrics were that good? Can you really say that Drake's lyrics were that good? Can you really say that it's in the essence of hip hop, where it is the way a battle is supposed to be? Take away all the stardom, and you think about the battle rappers who grind, and they probably make some money battle rapping, but they don't make as much as these dudes are making. When you listen to their lyrics, they're crazy. These dudes are spitting. Their bars their wordplay is just crazy, and they just have so much like in it and depth that's like oh, that's not there. That's not there, and so it's corny. I think it's watering it down. And because hip hop is so watered down, people are enjoying this. Then on top of it, this historical context of how it's shifting over to be outside of lyrical jousting to now this whatever it is, and people celebrating this foolishness. They look like clowns up there celebrating this. They look like tomfoolery. Russell Westbrook, Snoop, whoever else was up there, just look like straight clowns listening to all this. And so I just think it needs to stop. You know, y'all make music, make money, do what y'all got to do, and go back to uplifting the people. But now they're making money off of it, so that's why they're gonna keep doing it. I know that's my little take for what it's worth, and my little rant for 120 seconds about it. But
I agree.
You know, but enough about that corniness. So when I think about you and what you're standing for, and you wrote a book called Defy Gravity, and what made talk to us about your book. What's it about? What's it about, and and why did you write it?
Right. So I wrote this book for those individuals who just feel like they're at a standstill. They know that they're gifted, they know that they're intelligent, they know that they're talented, but for some reason they haven't been able to put the pieces together. Right. So like me, you're really questioning, like, why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? Because you just feel like you're not in alignment. So this book is really to uncover certain secrets and tips, some from my personal experience, and then from things that I've learned through my work life and through my readings and things of that nature, to really help people to uncover their gifts, to tap into their talents, and to launch into their ultimate level of personal and professional greatness. So the book starts off really by forcing people to take accountability. The first two chapters are, stop lying to yourself, and to be honest with yourself, right? And the reason that I say that is because a lot of us lie to ourselves every single day. And I was lying to myself. And I think that that's what inhibits our ability to truly grow, because we haven't tapped into who we are. We haven't taken accountability for the part that we played. So I know that you asked me earlier in the interview, what part did I play? And I feel like it's that, most of us have this type of victim mentality when things happen to us and we don't feel like we're in control, or we don't take the control to change the situation. So it's all about rewiring somebody's mindset to recognize that, hey, if you're not waking up in the morning and you sleeping throughout the day, that if you haven't gotten into the rooms and connected with the people that you need to connect with to get access into doors that were previously closed off to you, if you're looking to grow in your career, if you're not passionate about what you're doing and you're just showing up for a paycheck, we know all of these things. If you're hanging around the wrong crowd, and you don't have the right type of friends and the right type of support system, or if you don't talk to yourself and you're constantly clouded with self-limiting doubts, about yourself, or allowing other people to project their doubts and insecurities onto you, these are things that we need to learn, and we need to start shedding those self-limiting beliefs and recognize that really life is, based on our imagination. Really, you can create the life that you want. And I think that's the most important thing, particularly for young men, since we talked about, the environment and certain things that hold us back. I was having a conversation with my son, and, he's 14, we're starting to hit the gym, hit the weights, and, he's getting to that stage where he wants to talk to young women or girls, at this point. And I'm just like, listen, man, you're at a point right now that's very crucial for you. And as a young man, the only thing you should be focused on is what you want to do with your life and your vision. You need to be making sure that you're as mentally, emotionally, and physically tough to deal with what's coming in this world, because life is not easy, particularly as a young Black man. So I want you to make sure that you're strong in every single aspect. And I think that lots of young Black men don't do that. And that's what keeps us from succeeding. So, this book isn't just about young Black men. It's really for everybody. But I think that's something that particularly young Black men, or really anybody, can take from it, is that you got to really prepare yourself, mentally, physically, spiritually, in order to navigate this world and really live the life of your dreams.
To live the life of your dreams,
Yeah.
What healing process did you have to go through? What did that healing look like? And what did that journey look like for healing?
Right. So the healing is really just getting to a point of self-actualization. Like I said, I really had to spend time with myself. And I think that that's what a lot of people don't do. We don't spend enough alone time. We bring on and absorb so much energy from our environments or from different people that rarely do we sit alone, just with ourselves, with God, if you believe in a higher power, and just really try to figure out, like, who am I? What am I here for? What do I want out of my life? And what am I doing to prevent myself from getting what I want out of life? And really just having an honest conversation. So to be honest, my healing process was me spending a lot of alone time. And, during that period where I was trying to figure things out and I was frustrated, I spent a lot of time by myself, just maybe with my son and, just studying, reading, trying to find any way that I can improve my life and just kind of rewire my mindset. And I think that's the healing that typically needs to take place. Most of the time we look for some source or some individual outside of us to give us the answers, but all of the answers, I believe, are already inside of us. We just got to uncover them. And that's by doing a deep search and taking inventory on your own life and really just laying all the cards out on the table, seeing what you have to work with, where do I need to improve, and then start taking the steps.
Once you started taking those steps, what did you see start to change in your life?
I started to see everything change. So when I started my business, I had nothing. I had no money saved up, absolutely nothing. There was a time where I didn't even really have a car. So, I'm walking to meetings and things of that nature, but the desire, the drive was there just because I felt empowered that I can actually do something about it. So lots of times when we're in these situations and the environment's not necessarily ideal for us, that's when we have the self-pity. That's where we start complaining and things of that nature. But even when it didn't seem like I had much to work with, I actually felt empowered because I had actually uncovered the reason that I'm here. I figured out what exactly I wanted to do, which was to inspire people, was to help other people to achieve their goals. And who better to start with than myself, right? So actually, I was my first test subject, in order to, really start launching into my personal greatness. So I started going to all types of meetings, networking, and stepping outside of my comfort zone because I actually had a huge fear of public speaking. So one of the first barriers that I had to overcome when I would go to these entrepreneur meetings, they would have a period where every new business owner would stand up in front of everybody and have to explain what it is that they were looking to do. And I would just start shaking, when your heart rate just really starts speeding up and my leg, and I wouldn't even know why. My leg would just start trembling. And it got to a point where I'm like, hey, man, like you're starting a PR company that's focused on helping people to articulate their thoughts. You got to be outspoken. You got to be sociable. And here you are, scared to stand in front of people. Right. And it had always been something that I kind of contended with through elementary school. I started working on it in college, but I still noticed that it was like that in my late 20s. So I had to step out and I started seeking opportunities to speak because I knew that was something that was an Achilles heel of mine. Right. So again, and I know you probably want to get a question in. So
no, it's good.
Okay, so I know that's typically an Achilles heel. When something is challenging or uncomfortable for us, we tend to stay away from it. So how I kind of overcame things was anything that I was afraid of or nervous about, I said, I'm going to attack it. So public speaking was always something that kind of frightened me. But as I was going through that period of trying to figure myself out and what I wanted to do, I'm reading these books, watching these motivational speakers. I aspire to be like them, to be able to stand on stages and command a stage and to speak and articulate my thoughts in a clear and concise manner with supreme confidence. And in order to do that, I had to force myself onto stages. So in Central Florida, there's a HBCU called Bethune-Cookman University. Yes, I set up my first speaking engagement at a school for the School of Communications at Bethune-Cookman University. The first one was probably before like 16 students. I was giving a presentation about public relations, but then they liked me. So then they booked me again and I was speaking in front of 100 students in a small auditorium. And gradually my confidence started to increase because at first, of course, I was nervous. Each and every time I was doing it, I was nervous, but the nervousness started to diminish just slightly every single time that I did it. And I'm like, you know what? That wasn't so bad. I made it through. And then the next time I made it through. And then I recognized that I was on to something and I actually enjoyed it. But that was really the first kind of stumbling block that I had to overcome as a new entrepreneur.
Right. And I just think about that. I'm sure there's a lot of obstacles that you've had to overcome with being a business owner. So who was the most difficult client that you've worked with and why?
Who the most difficult client? Do I got to say their name?
Hey, that's up to you, but preferably, hey, put it out there. If they were difficult, they were difficult. It is what it is.
I'm not going to do that because, people change. You never know what happens, right?
True.
But I was working with this doctor. She called herself a sex doctor, right? And we were working together. It was really.
Why was she a sex doctor?
You said, why was she a sex doctor?
Yeah, I'm just curious now. Now I'm intrigued.
That's a good question. I'm not sure, but she would help people to kind of get more intimacy in their relationships and things of that nature. So she had like different products, and I guess she would, coach people on how to elevate the sexual experience within their relationships and how important sex was in your overall health. So that's pretty much what the focus of her work was. But we started off, just doing great stuff, and I worked very hard on this client. She would kind of, send us on trips and we would travel and do different things. And then we did this major campaign where I'm getting her in all of these top different publications, and she just disappeared and decided that she wasn't going to pay me my money. And I think with a lot of people sometimes, they come to you under the guise of being super successful, multi-millionaire people. And what I've learned being in the PR industry is lots of people aren't nearly as successful, or they don't have the money that they profess to have. And I think that was the case with her. So she just straight up dodged me out of my money. And, we got into a situation there, where we had to go through some legal things. But really, I never had an experience to that degree. You know what I'm saying? And that was actually my first big client. So it was really a blow. And it happened at a time where I was starting my family. I recently gotten married. We had a new kid. So my second
so you needed your money.
And I needed my money. Yeah, and it was before the holidays. It was before Christmas.
Oh, and man.
So it's just it was just hard.
How much did she owe? What was the back taxes look like? What?
Oh man, it was upwards of $8,000, man. And imagine not getting that. So so she was late the first time, and she said that she was gonna pay it, and she didn't. And then so I'm waiting, and then the next payment comes, and she didn't pay that. And then that's when she started getting all mean and, taking me through this whole process that just really got crazy. And, but yeah, man, imagine that right before Christmas, you trying to celebrate with your family, and then you just ain't, you're struggling, No,
I get it. Right now, I got a client who owes me about $50,000.
Yeah. Making mine look small, man.
So I got a client who owes me 50 racks. So we have a 3-year contract, right? And so we have a 3-year contract. And so we went through year one we started to go through year one of the contract. Right before the contract was getting ready to start, they had a change in leadership. It's a district out west in the California area. I'll keep it at that, right? Yeah. So they are out west. We had this contract that was supposed to be in place. I was supposed to work with them. I was supposed to get paid over a 3-year time period. And so what ended up happening was they ended up right before I was supposed to come, I got an email saying, hey, our leadership wants to go in a different direction. We know you have a contract, but we're going to go in a different direction. We understand we have to honor your contract, and we're going to pay you out we'll pay you out, but you don't have to come. If something changes, we'll let you know. So of course, me being me, I said, well, of course, I still want to come do the work. I don't want to get paid for nothing. I mean, it's cool. Thank you. But I would like to deliver services, because this was one of my larger contracts at the time. And, it was just like a great opportunity, at least I thought. So went through the first year of the contract. They paid me every cent that they were supposed to owe. Monthly checks were coming in. It was great. Checks were coming in. So summertime came, I stopped billing because, I didn't bill over summertime. It was only for them based on the way the contract was. So August rolled around and school year started, and I started billing again. And so they didn't pay. It was like a month in. So I started inquiring and say, hey, what's going on? And so when I started inquiring, they started to say, they started to send me communications back. And so they sent me a communication back that said they're going to sue me. And that they're going to sue me, and they're going to sue me for all the money that they paid out previously. And they're going to sue me for legal fees and all these other things. Now, when I spoke, and I have documented records that said, they told me everything that they said. They said, hey, we're going to pay you out. We have to keep paying you based on the contract. So I'm at a point now where my legal advice was to continue to bill them. And if they don't pay it, I write it off on my taxes. But at the end of the day, they owe me, I think, $50,000 for this year, and I still have next year, which is one more year of the contract. So by the end, they owe me about $100,000 that they didn't pay when they didn't do what they're supposed to do. and I've fulfilled my end. And they never met the criteria to cease and desist the contract, which is interesting because it was their provisions. So I don't understand why they just haven't done that. So until they do that, I continue to build them. And who knows, man? But at the end of the day, I just walk away and put it in God's hands. But it's crazy when working. Now, this is a large school district out west. Yours is somebody who is super successful, and just how people just have unethical business sense and business minds isn't cool. But that's part of, I guess that's part of the cost of doing business and some of the things that you got to go through and some of the L's you got to take. So the reason why I tell all of this as we're talking about it is because even though we may have moved into greatness, or we may have moved into really trying to do great things, we still go through struggles. We still go through L's. You still have moments of wanting to handle it in a way that you would have 20 years ago, or the way you would have dealt with something differently, or you start thinking with a victim mentality instead of a championship mindset and moving forward. And so, people need to hear that even though we may be doing all right, at the end of the day, we still go through our challenges. We still go through our struggles.
Yeah, so that was just the example I gave was just when I was new in business, but I've had a number of different challenges, right? And I think that part of dealing with those challenges is learning to pivot sometimes, right? And so there's times when you want to give up. There's times where you don't think that your business is going to work, and you get to a kind of a crossroads where you got to make a decision. But I think that's where understanding your purpose comes in. And because I found mine, I know that even when I face adversity, there's really no plan B for me. It's only plan A, right? So I got to make it work.
In adversity, I think about adversity and I really just want people who are listening to understand. So just because you have a good career or you're making decent money doesn't mean that you're still not going to face adversity. Like there's always constant tests that get sent your way. And I feel like, God tests us to see where our faith is at. I think we also get tests to see how we're going to handle it. Are you going to fall back into old ways? Are you going to move forward? I think, I'm going through a test right now. This morning, I missed my first meeting because I have a summer car, which, it sounds entitled, right? I have a summer car, but it's nice. I paid a lot of money for it. And it was something that, I wanted for myself. But since I've had it, I haven't been able to drive it because it's had engine issues. And so I paid a lot of money for a car that I haven't been able to drive. And stupidly, I bought it because I was being impulsive and under some conditions that I probably wouldn't have if I would have been thinking and listening to the signs and all this other stuff. So I feel like I'm getting a little slap on the hands or spanking. And, and some of me wants to handle this adversity in the way I would have 20, 30 years ago and handle it, with some street talk. And so, but I know that's not what God wants for me. I know that I can't deal with it that way. I know that I kind of just got to take the L, keep the faith, and also think about and count my blessings that I had another car to get into and drive to work today, even though I'm having some issues. So, I still, how do we overcome that adversity and what that looks like? And that kind of lends me to ask you, if there were three major things that you were going to help somebody move from their gutter to greatness, if you were going to help them defy gravity, as you say, and move from that gutter to greatness, what would those three steps look like? And how is it going to help them?
Yeah, so those are good questions. The first step I would say is to trade your expectation for appreciation, right? So even in the example that you just gave with your car, you had expectations for the car that you invested all of this money in. Things haven't panned out the way that you had hoped, but you recognize that you have another car that you can drive, right? So you still have transportation. So even sometimes when we're going through adversity, we don't necessarily look at what we have. We focus on what we don't have. And I think, for people who are in the gutter, as you put it, dealing with adversity, you got to start by recognizing, what do I have? Number one, I have breath in me. I have the opportunity to go out there and make this day a better day. No matter what anybody says, no matter how bad things are, if you're still here, you have an opportunity. So you got to look at, what do I have to work with, even if it's a little bit, and you got to build on top of that. So number one is trade your expectation for appreciation. Number two is really to just avoid distractions, man. And like I said, as young men, there's many ways that we get distracted, right? We talked about, girls, and we talked about pornography and things of that nature. But it wasn't until I recognized that I couldn't focus on those things that blessings started coming to me, because particularly for young men and young Black men, we're sexual beings. And if we don't utilize our energy in the right way, we know it can go in a completely different opposite direction that's counterproductive. So I think we have to really make sure that we avoid distractions at all costs. Anything that's not aligned with where we're trying to go in our life, we have to eliminate it. And the sooner you can do that, the better. So my life started changing once I started putting away, certain bad habits. And it might not even be, you're committing crime, or you're out there, trying to be a porn star or something like that. It might be minor things, but they're still creating setbacks. It might just be self-limiting beliefs or bad habits that don't help you to accomplish what you're looking to accomplish. So definitely avoid distractions and temptations at all costs. And then I would just say, really just pour into education, and I think what we're seeing, at this stage in life is that, of course, if your career path warrants that you go to college and things of that nature, of course, I believe that you should do that. There's some cases where you have to go, but we know that there's other ways to educate ourselves. I mean, everything, the internet is free. There's books out there. Educate yourself, and in the midst of educating yourselves, it'll uncover so many things about the world, so many things about yourself that you might not have even considered that can help you along your journey to elevate your life. So those are the three things that I would definitely say, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Is there what's next? What are some major things that you got going on as we kind of wrap up here? You want to share any of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So really, I'm focused on expand and defy gravity. Like I mentioned, that's really what my passion is, right? And so definitely in June of 2025, I'm planning my first Defy Gravity International Conference. I'll holler at you about that. But I'm definitely
I'm there if you want me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we got to make that happen. But yeah, definitely that, man. My focus is really just, as we're seeing the world shifting, we're seeing technology, we're seeing AI, all of these things come into play. We're seeing, challenges with the economy. The future is really unknown for a lot of people. So we want, again, for people to uncover their purpose and tap into their gifts so that they can really find what they're designed to do. Because a lot of people are going to be left behind, as we move forward. If they don't learn how to adapt, if they don't learn how to, properly utilize the skill sets that they have or acquire new skill sets, they're going to be left behind. So I really want to just bring, intelligent, highly successful, brilliant individuals together to pour into people. So I'm developing young people as well. Right? Young people who are talented and desire something out of life. I want to catch them early so we can really develop them and give them the tools to succeed. I'm definitely planning on doing some more international work. I was blessed to go to Ghana last year. I'm planning on going to Kenya soon to work on some things there, and really just building on the African continent is a goal of mine, and doing more work across the diaspora. That's really a focus of mine. And of course, expanding my PR company and my other endeavors. But yeah, that's really what it's about, man. It's just really, at the end of the day, just helping people to be great and helping people who, were like me, who just knew that they had something else inside of them and helping them to bring that out, because that's what makes the world a better place. And that's what, can help my people, in a sense. You get what I'm saying?
Definitely. And, I want to thank Ivan Thomas for coming on to be a guest today. He definitely is defying gravity. He is Ivan the Great. And as we always close out with a mindfulness minute, I think one of the most important things that I would love for people to walk away with today is having an attitude of gratitude. An attitude of gratitude, no matter what's going on with you, there's always an opportunity to learn. There's always a lesson in it. You don't have to be a victim. You don't have to walk away from and feel like there's nothing that you can do. There's always somebody who has it worse. In a situation where your attitude can develop your thoughts can develop your actions, and what you attract will come out of your thoughts, and you will definitely attract more if you believe that you have an attitude of gratitude, an attitude of thankfulness, an attitude of blessings. And the more you feel blessed, the more blessings will come to you. The more that you are thankful. I'm thankful for my opportunities today. I'm thankful that I learned that I was a dumb nuts and bought something I shouldn't have bought, and I need to make better decisions. I'm thankful that God has provided me with other opportunities. Even though I've had a very stressful morning, I've had things that are difficult, I'm thankful. I have an attitude of gratitude. And sometimes it's hard to maintain that, but that attitude is what's going to keep me blessed and keep that stress away. So until later, I want you to continue to be greater and be greater. And this has been another episode from the Gutter to Greatness, and we are signing off.
That's it for today's episode. So head on over to iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe to the show. One lucky listener that posts a review on iTunes will win a chance in the grand prize drawing for a $25,000 private epic VIP day with Dr. Miller himself. Be sure to head on over to guttertogreatness.com and pick up a free copy of Dr. Miller's gift and join us on the next episode.